swimming hard to the left.
It's pretty solid. They
Trying to
definitely
get
have been
to
looking
the
at
other
it
side of
as a
these
data going
trees,
back years,
and I'm
also
feeling like
modeling,
if I don't miss these trees, it's not going to be good.
Increased since the 90s. Before the 90s, it was not a very
I feel the
common
initial
occurrence.
impact,
After about
and
2000,
immediately
polar
I'm
vortex
being pushed
phenomena became more
hard
and more
with hundreds of
common,
pounds
and
of
it's
snow,
dipping down further.
both legs wrapped
So
around the trees, and
really good
thought
news.
for sure my legs were going to break right then.
If the future
We didn't know
is
at that
going to
time
be
how badly Kim was hurt.
in terms of
Or
how
if he
much
was even
water is
dead.
available, how much fresh water is available.
So what exactly had Tim the snowmobile done to trigger the ice
At
cold
least we
carnage?
know. Continuation of
So on the
global
side of the
warming.
mountain, it's
The
a
United
battle
States
of
not only
gravity
won't run out of
versus
water,
friction.
but we'll be
Snow
getting a
builds up in
lot
layers. You get a big layer of thick, dense snow,
At least the
and
Northeast
then another
will.
layer of thick, dense snow on top. But in
They-
between,
we
the
don't
only thing keeping them together is a little bit
That's
of
that's what the
friction.
pipeline's for. We're
This
going to
whole
take that
layer of
strand
snow,
of
it just wants to slip down.
Canada,
It's all ready to go.
Texas
Just needs
oil
someone,
field.
come along,
Right.
I'm going to show them
Tweak it a
wheels.
little bit, so it goes from the northeast
As soon
back
as
to the
Tim
west,
adds his
southwest.
weight with the snowmobile, it's too much. The friction isn't enough to keep the snow there, and the
Doing that,
whole slab
right?
starts
We're
to
going to burn a bunch
slide
of
down
fossil
the
fuels
mountain.
to manufacture things,
But
move
can
things
one
around.
puppy snow do any damage to a
Except
truck
it'll just
like
burn
Tim?
out water here that much quicker.
That wall of snow is equivalent to about
Come down to-
9,000 metric tons. Now that's the
Whether or not
weight
we're
of
at
that
the
14 blue whales.
Stable.
And it's
But
travelling
one of the
at
interesting
somewhere
things now to me
between
is go on to
40
the
and
next step.
60 kilometers per hour, which is a really high speed for a
Global
blue
warming
whale
How are we
coming
going to
toppling
have to
down top of
rebuild
you.
our cities and
Tim
our
suffered serious
civilizations?
ligament damage to
Well,
both
figured a
knees.
little
A
higher
small price to
elevation.
pay for
So again,
escaping with his life.
we're in a drought condition in
So,
one part of
has
the
this
country,
experience
but
changed
we're
Tim's taste
gaining.
for the white stuff?
Thankfully, we have a
Had 3 months of rehab on both knees, and I was ready for the next winter. As soon as it started snowing, I was ready to go.
Spanish. Well, we got
It hasn't changed my country. It's too much fun to think about, oh, it's too dangerous. We like getting far out. We're looking for a good time every time we go out.
Yes, Northwesterners will be underwater, and the new greater lakes are going to be formed.
Well, Justin, this isn't to say that we're going to have that a year. You can't count on it. Things are just becoming more and more crazy, basically. It looks to me like there's just...
So we'll take what we can get.
It's crazy, but I'm gonna say, moving into another story, that scientists do just make observations and figure things out sometimes. Sometimes it takes a while to figure it out, but they get it. So there are these rocks in Death Valley, in a place called Racetrack Flight. And for years, people have been trying to figure out how exactly these rocks move.
The wind.
They're rocks, but yeah, wind. But how? Well, okay, thanks for just telling the story right now. Making a turn, I'm telling the story to people. Background and then the details.
I've seen this before. Go ahead.
In fact, we should probably go get ourselves.
So there have been many hypotheses as to how these rocks, little rocks, just rocks, rocks don't move, they don't have legs, they don't scurry after you in the night, they're just rocks, right? Well, they move,
A disconnect that may be occurring between the deep
and
structures
so
of the brain
people,
that process
since
our
like the
experiences
1940s, people have been coming up
and the
with
parts of the brain
explanations for
that
how
are
the rocks
conscious
would
of what we
move.
experience.
And
Process
yes,
it,
winds have
tell us
always
what we
been
see.
a part of these explanations. One
Yeah.
geologist said that technically a propeller from an airplane, a propeller airplane, and blew it trying to see how much force from the wind.
And now you fucking bitch!
Christian, stop.
The business project isn't the first step that evolution makes.
No, it's not
Instead,
enough.
we know that it stops in lots of
Okay,
other
the
ways.
wind's not
For
enough.
instance,
In those
the
previous
middle
attempts,
may
they
be
tried with the
processed
propellers and blowing up.
involuntary emotion.
That's a little bit, but not like
31.
long, winding paths
It's involved in
across the
preliminary-
And so that's the exact thing also. How do the winding paths appear? They're not totally straight. They're long and they do kind of wind. So how does that, how does the wind only do that? So yes, there's another piece of the puzzle in there. And so finally, some scientists went to Death Valley and they stuck geolocators on the rocks, and they also got cameras up there, and they got weather stations to find out what was happening in the weather, and they found out that yes.
Without knowing why it all
but it takes a very special combination of ice forming on a racetrack and then a sunny morning structures and lightly melt the ice to create a small buoyancy that the rocks will float on top of the ice, plus a light wind and the ice cracking along natural cracks that would form in the ice, and
the inner parts of my brain committed to memory and generated emotional response. But then, a fraction of a second later, out of sync, my visual cortex finally gets the conscious, aware part of my brain.
Right? It's new.
It'll say, okay, guys, we're looking at A.
Was this the first time that they said, let's set up a camera?
And then C, right? I mean,
I don't know. I think so. I think this is really one of the first times they've got GPS, weather station, time-lapse cameras.
What could cause these processes?
Really, the technology to do this has not been available
out of sync
that long. You know, they started this project back in 2011, and they finally got enough data to be able to and written the paper.
We also know that patients who experience chronic and persistent
but there's a great video if you just go to the Ars Technica site, or you can even look for it on YouTube. Called How Rocks Move, and the researchers.
What sounds kind of bad, right? I mean, when I experience deja vu, should I run to
and then, finally, we live in immense heaven.
Minor epileptic events are quite
common.
You've probably experienced
this sounds great. Grab the bunch of black Nikes now, like, what's going on?
It's a fancy name for what occurs
Everybody, everybody get ready with your glasses of Kool-Aid, okay? Glasses of Kool-Aid ready?
What's going on though? Is that
mine's clear Kool-Aid called vodka. No.
And some part of your brain that's still awake notices that.
Astronomers!
You're no longer
nice sunglasses. You're ready. You're ready.
And it sends out a huge signal.
Astronomers using the National Science Foundation's Green Bank telescopes have been trying to figure out what neighborhood we're in space. And they have determined if clarified the boundary of the supercluster that we live in. Superclusters are the largest structures known in the universe. So they have defined the boundaries of the supercluster that we live in, which is pretty cool. It's like going, hey, now I know which streets are the boundaries of my neighborhood and how to get there. Cool things about this. Okay, they called it Lanaiakea. Their researchers in Hawaii. So Lanaiakea is Hawaiian for immense heaven.
All the separate
not
if they're given the same blocking words that are related, no one in the group can come up with the name until the subject is
the really neat thing about this is that the observations have allowed us to understand how gravitational forces are at work in our supercluster, and how energy is flowing through it. And there are some amazing images, great video that's available to be able to get an idea of how where we are with respect to the center of our galactic cluster, the forces from other clusters, and everything within it. Some really neat stuff going here. It clarifies the role of the Great Attractor, which is a focal point gravitationally in intergalactic space that influences motion of our local group of galaxies and other galaxies.
What the fuck you want?
That we don't know, that we don't understand.
Galaxy motions are directed inward in the same way that water streams follow descending paths toward a valley. The Great Attractor is a large, flat-bottomed gravitational valley with a sphere of attraction that extends across our supercluster. Our supercluster is 500 million light years in diameter, and has the mass of 100 million billion suns across 100 galaxies.
That's pretty big. That's a big size.
Million billion suns. 100 million billion suns is the mass of our supercluster.
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here. And
the images that are available are just so striking to me because
or is it?
It looks like something
need your
physiological.
brain
I mean, there are all
understand the
these,
words that
within
are
nature you see
and you
repeating
need your
patterns
brain to decide whether or not
occurring from the small
like what
scale
you're
to the
hearing.
very large.
You would also need your
And this
brain to move your
is,
muscles
once
in
again,
just the right way
it's
to
like,
click.
it's like
Subscribe
veins or nerves where there are branches coming off of the main trunk
And without a
in
brain,
the flow
well, you
of
can't do
gravitational
much of
force
anything at all.
within
So,
within the
literally
cluster.
speaking,
It's
there
really
such a
fascinating
thing
to me that there
as
is
a
this
brainer?
this
Let's
total
begin
conservation
with headers.
of structure,
Decapitation. It's a macabre subject,
even at
I
such a large
know.
scale.
But what's the matter? Are you chicken?
Yeah, that's so great.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
Because Mike
Awesome.
certainly was. In
All right,
1945,
Justin, what you
former
got?
Lloyd Olson went
Let's
out to
let's
buy
do
chicken for
bird
supper.
bird
He cut
school.
the chicken's head off, and
This is I'm translating this, paraphrasing
Mike,
this
the
from
headless
the
chicken,
original
lived for
German.
another
This is from the University of
18
Vienna.
months. He toured the country and
Or actually,
supplied
yeah,
onlookers. He
scientists
would
from
walk
the
and perch.
Oxford
Instead,
University,
by putting little drops
University
of
of Vienna,
water or
Max
pieces
Planck
of grain
Institute
down his
at
throat.
Switzerland,
But he was
have shown that
Mike, the
spontaneous
headless
innovation
chicken's actions
by a
were
Gaussian's
a
cockatoo
no-brainer. Because even though
spread
he
to
didn't
other
have much of what
conspecifics by
we
social
call
learning,
headless,
social learning among
he did
birds.
have a bit of his
After
brain.
observing that an adult
If you
male
want a
gophering cockatoo
clearer
named
no
Figaro
we're going to have to look at
spontaneously
even
started to
simple
sculpt
features.
stick tools out of the
These
wooden
guys don't
aviary
even
beams
breathe through their
and
heads,
used them
so
for
without
raking
one,
nuts
they're
behind the
fine.
grid
Instead,
of the
they
grate.
breathe through holes all
Researchers
over their
wondered
bodies.
what
And
effect
instead of being
did
controlled by a
such an
big,
individual's
massive
technical
brain,
innovation
they have little
might have
bundles
on
of nerves
social
dangling
companions.
throughout their bodies.
So they used
And so
Figaro
even
as a
without
role model
any
and
head
treated
parts,
other birds
even when
with
completely
different
decapitated, a cockroach
exposure
can live for
Figaro's
weeks. It can walk around.
One experimental
find
cockatoo group
movement.
were allowed to
Really,
observe
its only
Figaro
problem is that without
skillfully
its head,
employing a
it will
ready-made
eventually
stick tool.
starve
So
to death.
he's already got the tool, he's getting
Us
the nuts.
humans are not nearly
Either
as
seeing the
fortunate.
tool displace the
Without
nuts
a head
themselves,
and brain,
or while
we
being
die within
controlled by
seconds,
magnets
if
hidden
not
under a
instances.
table, or
But before
seeing
you
the
jump,
nuts moving
keep in
towards
mind,
Figaro
with our
without
heads intact, we are capable
Again,
of some
using
actions
magnets
that
to
don't
displace food.
necessarily.
They were all then
require
placed in front of the same problem with a ready-made tool lying
When
on
you
the ground.
snap your
in front of
finger,
them.
your
So
finger moves
here's
at
how he's
about
going to use it.
20
In one
miles
case,
per
here's
hour.
the control where
And a really
the
big
nuts move
sneeze can
without
expel
Figaro
air
doing
at
anything.
only 30 to
Here's
40
that tool.
miles per hour.
Go to work.
But nerve impulses, they're really
They were, okay,
They
so
can
3 males and
clock in
3
at
females
200
that
and
saw Figaro's complete
miles per hour.
demonstration
But sometimes
interacted much more with the potential tool and other components,
if you
and the
accidentally
problem
put your
then
hand on a
goes
hot
to
stove,
the fake
cells are
the
dying
magic
quicker.
them. They
And
tried to
250 miles per
concentrate
hour
really hard.
doesn't cut it. You need to take
Use
an
my
action
magic
fast.
mind
It's not
powers
worth it to tell your
to
brain
bring
what's
it up.
happening right away. And so instead,
This is,
your immediate reaction to pull
you know,
away
and then they did
is
other layers
mediated
where they
by other
actually
parts
showed
of your nervous system. The
there
same
were
can be
2
said for
successful observers that
involuntary
were later
and
tested after
unconscious
seeing him
processes.
create the tool first and then use it. 2 successful observers were later tested in the absence of the ready-made tool, offering them the materials. One of them spontaneously started to
But I'm
make
not
his own
quite
tool.
satisfied yet because they
Now,
still
the other
require
one
that
initially
your
failed,
brain
but
be
then
there
managed to do
to
so
keep you
after a
alive.
single demonstration
What if
session
it worked
watching Figaro carve tools out of block.
in your
So,
dead, brainless
this is,
body?
this is
Your
bird
muscle
learning.
cells still
It's
contain
really
the
amazing.
energy
Like,
in the
this
form.
species is not known to use tools in the
Backyard
wild.
brains
Not that they
right here
are.
on YouTube demonstrates this with insect parts. This leg is no longer connected to a brain
Followed
or a
anyway.
body, but
Okay,
energy
I'm back.
remains in the
I'm back.
cells. And so researchers can detect
They're not known to use tools in the wild,
when the leg is
and
touched
so it's
or
really
being
interesting that they did this in the first place, and then to have this kind of learning behavior, this emulation learning occur following is
The
even
muscle
more
cells of a
fascinating.
human limb would respond in just the same way. But you
What
don't
species
need
was this?
wires to observe behavior like
This is a
also
cockatoo.
The introduction of sodium
Very
ions
interesting.
can cause a process similar to an action potential
Yeah, you know,
in a
the
living
parody
animal.
things are pretty
Salt
smart.
added to these
They're not
fresh
crow
fat
smart,
layers.
but they're pretty smart.
Dance.
No, it's pretty interesting in
The cells will
parrot
eventually
family,
run
the
out of
Scidae
energy,
family. They're
decay. But to be
they
sure,
are
there
on par
many
where
other
brains are actually
candidates for
slightly
no
different in
brainers
structure.
at the
So they
moment.
are
Yeah.
they
For
have
instance,
neurological
muscles relaxing,
anatomical differences in the brain between parrots and corvids. And so differences in their behavior are going to come from that. So parrots are very social
Instead,
and they
it's
do
actually
have,
the
they
skin
show this
itself
kind of learning
shrinking as it drops,
a lot, and so it's
making
even,
fingernails
it's more surprising to see the kind of learning
But
that we
let's
see
take a
in
closer
the
look
cortex.
at these skin cells.
Because they're not, they are
They're
social, but not as social in the
satisfactory.
same way.
That's another interesting side note to
Your
this
skin
whole thing.
cells live on
The
periphery
cockatoos that
but
were
they don't require
got
constant
witness and everything and were
nutrients from
at
your blood.
one point
And so even
emulating
though you are
the original
dead,
Figaro
your brain is
behavior,
no longer calling you shots,
also
or skin cells
tried
can
other
continue to
tactics.
live, gather
Right, they did their own thing. They're
They
like,
did their own version, and some were more successful than
In
Figaro.
fact, you can
But
harvest
Figaro
skin
didn't get to
cells
see
from
that.
a cortex
Figaro figured out one way to do it that kind of worked for him, and he keeps
On a
doing it.
related note,
The other ones are like, yeah, but if you hold it like this,
sure, a lot of the
it's a little more
digestive
comfortable for me
process is
because
completed by
I'm left wing.
being alive
And if
and
you did it that way,
works.
it works
But
even better.
part of the work is done by
There was even
bacteria, which
innovation
happens to live
in the,
inside your gut.
students, yeah, the students learned, but then took it upon themselves to do something to try and do it
So,
better.
in a way,
That is fantastic. So next time someone calls you a bird brain,
part of that process,
Take it as a compliment. That's what I've been telling people for years.
these bacteria that live inside you are foreign
This is This Week in Science. Hey, Blair. Do you know what time it is? I think
is it that
I
time?
think it is that time.
Right.
Are they
Sweet.
without a
Well,
brain,
you want to
your
talk about
body
fish
no
pee?
longer has
Yeah.
It no longer
Fish don't
does
pee. How can
you
Yeah, they
decide
do.
to do.
How
In
would a
other
fish
words,
pee? Fish don't even drink water.
no-brainer
How would a fish want to drink water? They're already surrounded.
for you.
So let's start from the
Because
beginning
it
then.
requires
Fish
not
drink.
using you.
If they're freshwater
If you
fish,
are
they
merely
just
what your
drink
brain
the water
does,
that they're
not
in.
what your
If they're
cells
saltwater
do
fish,
on
they
their
have
own,
specialized
your brain is
kidneys
Then,
that
in a
help
way,
take the salt
being
out of the
you,
water.
being alive, is
They drink water and they eat just like any other animal does. They have food. So,
brainer is checking out these
turns out
signs.
that
You
tilapia
can find
pee
some scientific
is very
analysis,
important
some
in the
video
Du kommer hit nu.
some pretty cool apps.
Du måste komma, jag ska hämta en sak.
And as always, the
So, it was time
Vi
for
gifter oss nu.
and this is why. That's when they had males and females in the tank. And they had kind of a courtship arena. So there's males and females all working, trying to find each other.
foods we regularly
And there's definitely a hierarchy. There's ranking among males,
One of my favorite
and
ways
they
to avoid that
fight
is simply hold the
in this
banana
courtship
and snap it in
arena.
half. Boom. Now
And
it peels.
with their mouths,
It's a
so
wonderful
crazy.
little
The
trick.
tilapias make
Except
excavations
when
in the
you drop
sand
it on the ground.
in the middle of the arena so that they
This
can attract
is a
females to
bomb.
spawn in the
But if
nest.
I
Like,
pick
hey,
it
look
up
at this nest that I made.
What if you
Don't you want
say,
to lay your eggs in this
"Hey,
nest so I
the
can then
bacteria on the
put my
floor
sperm on top
move
of the
on
eggs?
the
Like,
field.
doesn't this look like a fantastic place to put your eggs? Please put your eggs here. Look at it. And then the
Where's your eggs?
Is there any
Don't you
treatment
want to
going,
put your
or is
eggs
there
stay away,
something
other
they
man.
say to allow us to eat
Please
food on
lay
the
your
ground?
eggs. Stay away. Lay your eggs.
In
This is what the
2003,
tilapia-
Gillian Clark famously investigated this
While they're
question.
doing that,
She found that 50% of
tilapia.
men use the
It's
5-second rule to
observed
eat
that
food off the
they
ground.
urinate more often
70%
during this time.
Women do.
And I
More
love the
importantly,
scientific
I
language
love
here.
the
They
science.
squirt larger quantities of urine
will
into the
contaminate
water.
food, wet or dry. The
During a
Mythbusters
fight,
found similar results,
when-
and a paper
when
published in the
they're
Journal of Applied
subordinate,
Microbiology got even more technical.
Or compared to the
researchers
subordinate
contaminated
ones.
various
If
ore
one of them's
surfaces
winning,
with
they're the
salmonella,
ones squirting.
and they
more.
found
The winner.
I'm the winner.
Yes, the
Way too
ropes.
long.
It's a left.
Oh.
As to say.
Everywhere.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Meanwhile,
So the question
Win.
is, is the loser peeing because they're scared? Is there a fear of it?
For a full minute, the number they found was 10 times greater.
it's the dominant males are peeing And they're also keen when they're trying to court the females all at the same time. So they've been able to glean from that urine.
And don't complacently
Probably
think that you're safe because the floor looks clean or to prove that fell
I
on
must
it.
say, you look
Floors
amazing.
make great homes for bacteria.
I don't remember when the
Also,
moonlight
floors
was
come in
looking.
contact with
Oh,
the
yes,
bottoms
on my
of shoes. And University of Arizona has found that 90%
Yes, I know. Just move your leg a
of
little
our
to the I'm
shoes
sorry. Yes, I
are
cannot.
contaminated with
Your eyes are
I've linked all of these studies down in the description. They're
So,
great reads, very
that's all
thorough.
happening.
But is it
And
true
it would
that
be easy
food
to
dropped
assume
on
from
the
that
floor becomes
because
contaminated
of our friend pheromones.
I'm sure,
Pheromones are
practically
used
speaking, that
to
makes a
find
lot of sense. but
rivals, they're used to court.
Is there a limit to how quickly
So,
bacteria
that makes
can
sense.
move from one object
So scientists wanted to
to another?
look at these pheromones.
Is there an amount of time, short
So
enough,
they
that were I
looked
to
at
pick the
the
food up within
urine.
it?
First
There
of
would
all,
be
they
no
wanted to
way
see
for
if
what
the
it touched
tilapias did this
to
behavior in captivity, and they do.
Well, we're going
So
to
it's
need to
definitely
define
something that they could test in a lab.
I've talked about this
So they would
before
collect
on
this
Vsauce
urine,
and on finger, and minute
and they were
physics has a
trying to
great
look at the
quantum
chemical
perspective.
structure.
But when we
And
say
so this one scientist collected urine from dominant males, purified the samples, and then was able to identify the pheromones. She found two pure pheromone substances,
at a subatomic
and the
level,
chemical
atoms
structures
resist smashing
were
together
looked at
because
using
their
NMR,
electrons-
nuclear magnetic resonance
Electrons can be modeled as
And
waves,
they're
that overlap and
she was able
interact,
to identify
but they
them.
never touch.
And
There's always
The
space
males and
between.
females each
When I touch
showed
something or
sensitive
someone,
responses
I'm really
to
just
the
feeling
odor
their
of both
electrons
of these
react to
separately.
mine at
Two unrelated
small
pheromones,
one.
and they both
So that's the case. How come
the way that they do it is pretty much what you would expect. It stimulates the hormonal system of the females, they're responding, they promote the development of insect fluid and they reduce aggressiveness. So,
Science or is it O's? That was the O's.
I've heard
Say.
I had and I like very much so that's really cool that we've learned that. But why and how does this help us? It's easy to say, oh, that's so awesome that you're out doing that, probably other people do that. But now we can look at that in terms of their culture and that they can ideally set for
Try and control species with the pheromones, reduce aggression possibly, or yeah, thinking about the aquaculture that salmon are one of the biggest issues in aquaculture. Farmed fish getting more aggressive, different things. Out in the wild, that seems that so there were and if there were ways to manage
Totally. So, now let's talk about salamanders.
And moving on from fish to eat a salamander skin.
Salamanders are really cool. And so, a recent study they
and
the
phone
step
books. By
that
interviewing
was
the pages,
making
you've
it
got
possible
yourself a
for
monster
this skin to
capable
heal so
of
fast
lifting
and
an
for
entire car.
fast tissue
I was
work.
recently lucky enough to see this happen
They also
in
found
real life. You can check out my
specific
adventure over
elements,
on Fast Furious
proteins
Fun. It's a new channel.
that
Stay tuned. because
promoted
we
the
lifted
release
cars with
of
more than just phone books.
the
The
hormones that
adhesion
allow
between two
for
objects caused by
fast
these
cell
shapes of their
regeneration
surfaces
and fast growth.
contributes to friction and
So-
is known as mechanical.
This is still very
It plays a pretty
technical
big role
and
in
not really, it
origins.
hasn't been,
It's
they haven't
preliminary.
taken, yeah, they haven't taken
If two
salamander skin,
surfaces can
the stuff from it,
mechanically
kind of
aren't
take,
close
like,
enough to do so,
synthesized
we
it
would
out of
say
it
they
and
were
then put it on a mouse and
And so
move
if
the
by
mouse and saw
definition
what would
touching
happen.
means
That
you
would
can
probably be the next thing,
mechanically
is
adhere to the
the,
other object's
okay,
surface, well,
if we
then maybe the
drew-
5-second rule shouldn't be known.
if we try to
as
put
the 5-second
this
rule,
into
because if they're touching
a mouse,
already too
or
Can we put it
instead
into a
the rule should be known
bandage? Can we create a bandage that
That's
has
the other
a
thing.
pump or a gel that's put on wounds that you just put it
But
over a
come to think of
wound,
it, maybe
will
we
it
shouldn't
speed up
be
healing
doing
and
this
reduce
touching.
scarring?
Anything.
So there's, I think
Because
there's two things here.
bacteria
One,
are
through
everywhere,
gene therapy or
including
something
all
like that, where you can
right now.
actually
There are more
have the body
bacteria on
create
your body
these
right
things on
now
its own.
than there are
Or
people
two, the much
living
more interesting
in
thing, in my
America.
opinion, would be some sort of
There are
topical
40
application.
million bacteria in one
So,
pound of soil.
it's
and
very,
5
again, very
non-million
preliminary, but they're
bacteria
able,
on
so far
Earth.
they've been able to
It's been
identify
found that
specific
1 out of every
very
10
specific
bank cards
elements
and 1 out of every
that are
7
causing
bills
this
has
to be
fecal
the
bacteria.
easy
Here's
regeneration
something
in the
fun.
scalp.
Go down
So,
to the comment section
very
and
exciting.
click the letter
Again, it's kind of hard
If
to
you use the
vocalize
mobile
because
phone to do
it's
that,
so
congratulations.
technical
You
and
just
so
touched
preliminary at this point, but it's a huge
6,281 bacteria.
open door
If
for
you're using a
future
desktop
research now to
keyboard,
come
you're
in
also
and
you
take
probably
this and
touched
see how
about
it could be
100.
applied. So that's
I totally want gene modification. I want those genes in me.
But they want to estimate
No,
how many
that's
Can I regenerate a lost
based on
limb?
how clean you
All
are.
future generations being able to actually just sit on it and have it get
But
better.
honestly, what
that's
amazes me the most
Yeah,
isn't
that'd be great.
how
Exactly.
dirty
Could
our
we
world
produce
is or how
those
much
compounds in our
bacteria
saliva so that we just
Instead,
so that we already have
despite
some
those numbers,
antibiotic
we don't get
compounds
sick
in our
or
saliva,
often.
and we have
Our
some pain-killing
immune
compounds
system
in our saliva.
is amazing.
Let's just add
But
more.
it relies on the
Spit on
same
stuff.
principles of adhesion that
Feel it.
bacteria
There
do.
we go.
The forces
so
that
great.
cause food
Yeah.
dropped on the floor
Yeah.
to pick
So
up
those are
germs
actually all of my
are the same
animal
forces
corner
that
stories,
we need
unless
to
you count
fight.
humans as an
They're the
animal, and I'll
same
give you a
forces
quick
that
one.
bring us
I
closer
do.
together,
Great.
whether we like it or not.
I thought
So
this was
keep
so great.
adhering.
A
And as
handsome
always,
face could mean lower sperm count in humans. What? Yeah. Facial masculinity was negatively associated with semen quality in a recent study. Increased levels of testosterone often have been shown to impair sperm count and sperm production. So, if high testosterone means a handsome face, maybe that means a lower sperm count. And so it's
Why high
Near the
testosterone
hot desert
males
just
would be
outside
more
of
likely
Phoenix,
to try and
Arizona,
have multiple
is a
mates.
company called
there you go.
Alcor.
It's also
Despite
kind
the
of
high
an
temperature
energetic
outside, within, over
push and pull,
100
energetic
human
trade-off
bodies are being
between what we
preserved
call
at very
secondary
low
sexual
temperatures.
signaling, such as
Both
facial
David Poe
masculinity
met with the
and
president
fertility.
and CEO.
But
Matt
this is so
Moore
crazy. They,
to
in
learn
the study,
about the
had
field of
females and
cryonics.
males score
Using
these
this
males
calendar.
on how handsome they look. And in order to do that, they obscured their hair. It was very important that they obscure the hair in a black oval, so you just saw the face, and the hair had no account in how handsome the man was. But
As you know, a
overall,
good haircut, that can do everything.
or it could ruin everything. It was the bad one.
Moore doesn't promise
But the
he'll be able to
males
bring any of his
overall
patients
estimated
back,
facial
but he thinks
images
the chances
more
are pretty
attractive
good.
overall than females did, suggesting that males overall overestimate the attractiveness of other men. Maybe that's because they're threatened or they see them as competition, but straight males scored other males higher than the
After an
females.
Alcor member is declared legally
Which is pretty
dead,
funny.
the patient
Yeah.
is
But
immediately
overall
placed in
handsomeness
an ice bath.
Equals lower.
Then,
Then,
with respiration to make sure oxygen continues
Now,
to flow to
was
the
it the
brain
same-
until the body is cryopreserved.
Is that the same for
In
men
fact,
and women
certain
now?
patients
And
choose
what
to
they were
preserve their
rated?
heads alone.
It
Ted Williams,
yeah, it was
the
average.
baseball star,
Was
is a
average.
famous
Okay.
Alcor neuro patient.
But here's the part I don't get. Suppose
But overall,
medical
they
science
were
does advance as
similar.
a
They
whole,
were on a similar
and
scale.
in 75 years,
Just
they
overall,
revive
the
this
numbers were higher.
decapitated
But
head.
Bobby, is this by
Don't have a
sheer
body anymore.
quantity?
Well, this is the way I look at it. I personally am a neuro.
Well,
so I'm not going to be on my body.
sperm count.
Every single day,
Sperm count, that's a quantity. It
my body's
is
going to be a
it would be
disaster.
sheer
So if I
quantity.
do
Consider it
Sperm
something.
count.
The obvious answer to this
How many
question.
Sperm in a cubic centimeter.
But we leave that choice to our members.
What are you concerned about, Justin?
I think what you're talking about, and I will say this, Justin, the volume that is produced has nothing to do with sperm count.
This is very sci-fi.
Aha, okay, never mind.
Movies where they would have frosty face behind the last place. Can't really do that.
And on that note, I think it is time for us to go take a break. This is This Week in Science. We're going to take a brief hiatus while I tell you all sorts of ways that you can help us out.
The bodies are wrapped in a sleeping
come
bag
back,
to
we
protect
will
the
have
skin
brain-to-brain
from direct exposure to
communication.
nitrogen.
And
Each
more
one is
science,
housed in
so
its
stay
own
tuned.
aluminum compartment within the tank.
So if we could see through these, we would see people just kind of like floating like this, or head down. So are these people insulated? Are these basically giant thermoses? Yeah. It's you must get some strong reactions from people you tell them what you do.
I don't know about you, but the chat room is totally broken. It's making me very sad. So if you're out there, thank you for being out there, chat room.
Mine is broken too.
Broken. The chat room's broken.
When they see
We also have question and answers that I'm looking at on our Google Plus Hangouts page. So if you're watching it through Google Plus Hangouts, or YouTube, I believe you can ask questions in the question and answer app that goes along with the show. And then I'll try and look at the social media too. I haven't done that yet. Social media, and no, I'm not seeing it yet. But I will tune into the social media.
I don't used to do it forever because forever's a very long time.
Relevant comments.
Then it could be different universe.
As we go forward.
But
what else do I want to say? Oh yeah! Twist, This Week in Science, the show that you're listening to or watching right now, has merchandise that you might enjoy. We've got t-shirts, hats, we've got sweatshirts, we've got little tote bags, Christmas ornaments, keychains, stamps, so many cool things. All you have to do is head over to twist.org and look for our Zazzle store. Look in the main header bar, right across the top.
You may not realize it, but your brain actually processes information in two very distinct ways. Like when you look at this photo, you instantly know she has blonde hair, is visibly angry, and likely has some choice words to yell. Without any effort, you experience fast thinking. But if you look at the following problem, something different happens. Sure, you immediately know it's a multiplication problem, and you knew you could solve it if you had the energy, but didn't. If you do try, your muscles will tense, your pupils will dilate, and your heart rate will increase. Now, you've experienced slow thinking. These two systems of fast and slow thinking dictate much of our perception and reaction in life. Take these lines, for example. It's clear that they're different lengths, but if you measure them, they're actually the exact same length. Even now that you know, System 1, or your fast thinking, can't stop seeing the illusion because it acts automatically. A similar effect is seen here. Which figure is the largest? Again, they're all the same size, but the suggestion of perspective and depth causes your System 1 to interpret the picture as three-dimensional, even though it's on a flat two-dimensional surface. It's making quick work of the available information, and so your conscious System 2, or slow thinking, must compensate after the fact and choose not to believe your intuition or instinct. Want to see your System 2 in action? I'll show you a string of 4 digits, you read them aloud, then add 1 to each of the original digits. If the card reads 3795, the correct response would be 4806. We'll then go to the next card, and you'll do the same, followed by the next card. Ready?
Similar to Kickstarter, where you give us a certain amount of money per show, and then we give you a gift in return. A bunch of people have started getting gifts recently, and it's been nice to see the photos of the unboxings come in. It's really fun to see people have little pieces of Twist in their lives. So you can donate through Patreon or PayPal, whichever you prefer. Just go to the website, twist.org.
Few people can cope with more than 4 digits, but even harder is add 3. The interesting bit is that though your pupils would have dilated, you often become effectively blind when you fully engage System 2. Did you notice the color of the text change? Or how about the fact that the numbers completely changed when I put them off to the side? Listen to the following puzzle. A bat and a ball cost $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? Chances are your System 1 intuition was yelling 10 cents. But this appealing System 1 answer we know is wrong. In fact, the correct answer is 5 cents. Even if you worked out the correct answer, you likely thought of 10 cents along the way. System 1 is trying to work out an answer as quickly and seamlessly as possible, which is extremely beneficial in everyday life. If every activity required full mental effort, it would be exhausting. But knowing this allows us to understand that not all of our first impressions are correct. How many animals of each kind did Moses take into the ark? So few people detect what is wrong with this question that it's been dubbed the Moses illusion. In fact, Moses took no animals. Noah did. Again, our brain invests as little resources as necessary so that things run quickly and smoothly. Because Moses is not abnormal in the biblical context, System 1 unconsciously detects an association between Moses and Ark and quickly accepts the question. In a similar way, System 1 generates context without you knowing. Reading each of the following may seem fairly simple. A, B, C, and approach the bank in 12, 13, 14. But your brain actually interpreted these ambiguous statements without you ever knowing. You might have read it as A, 13C, or 12, B, 14, but your brain created the context unconsciously. Also, you likely imagined a woman with money on her mind walking towards the bank with dollars. But if the sentence before her was floating gently down the river, the entire scene would have changed because bank is no longer associated with money. Without an explicit context, System 1 quickly generates one based on previous experience. In this case, you've likely visited more banks than rivers, and so the context is resolved accordingly. This ties into a concept called priming. For example, if I said wash, most would see soap, but had I just shown you the word eat, you'd be more likely to see soap. In this way, both eat and wash prime your thoughts. For System 2 likes to think that it's in charge and knows what's going on, the truth is that priming effects have even been shown to affect and modify behavior. These arise in System 1, and you have no conscious access to them. If you'd like to learn more about the thinking systems in your brain, check out the book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, which covers it in great detail. I'll put a link in the description which you can check out. Got a burning question you want answered? Ask it in the comments or on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe for more weekly science videos.
65 tons.
65 tons, nearly a third more dinosaur.
That's 65 one-ton pickup trucks.
The human body is a wonder, but perhaps the most curious and quintessential aspect of the human experience is the orgasm. The body's sexual response is typically broken down in 4 stages: excitement, plateau of arousal, orgasm, and resolution. Following arousal, the brain stimulates blood flow to the genitals, the heartbeat and breathing increase, and the central nervous system is fully engaged, sending signals of enjoyment to the brain's reward system. These thousands of nerve endings constantly relay pleasure signals to the brain, resulting in orgasm. For men, the orgasm includes rapid contractions of the anal sphincter, the prostate, and the muscles of the penis. In conjunction with ejaculation, which sees the release of sperm and other seminal fluid, the whole process for men involves around 3 to 10 seconds of intense pleasure. This is followed by a refractory period from minutes to hours, in which another orgasm cannot be achieved. Women, on the other hand, do not experience a refractory period, allowing them to experience multiple consecutive orgasms. On average, these last around 20 seconds, or sometimes much longer, and consist of rhythmic contractions between the uterus, vagina, anus, and pelvic muscles. But it's the brain that takes control, or rather, lack thereof during orgasm. Using functional MRI scans, scientists are able to see brain activity in over 30 discrete regions. It's flooded with the anticipatory and feel-good chemical dopamine, which makes you crave the feeling again. This is in tandem with the release of oxytocin, a hormone that mediates bonding and love between mates. PET scans show, surprisingly, that brain activity during an orgasm is the same between men and women. In both genders, the lateral orbital frontal cortex is turned off, which controls self-evaluation, breathing, and control. Makes sense, as you often lose control during orgasm. This shuts down fear and anxiety, which is seen as the most essential aspect of leading up to orgasm. The relaxation of the amygdala and hippocampus in women further reduce emotions, producing a trance-like state, while in men it dampens aggressiveness. Many areas of a woman's brain are shut down completely during an orgasm. These effects are less striking in men, likely because of the shorter duration and difficulty during brain scan. In women, an area called the periaqueductal gray, or PAG, is activated, stimulating the fight or flight response. While the cortex, which is associated with pain, lights up, suggesting that there is a connection between pain and pleasure. Following this climax and muscle contraction, the body experiences deep relaxation and heart rate slows to a resting pace. Who knew science would be so sexy? Got a burning question you want to answer?
Gave the size on the number of T-Rexes.
And subscribe for more weekly science videos.
It's like 6.5 T-Rexes. Right?
Yeah, I have this awesome picture up. You can see if you're watching on the video that you have down there in the booth, just about one time. And then you have the T-Rex under 10 tons. And then you have the Brachiosaurus at 40 tons. Then you have the Boeing.
Waking up powerful hormones and triggering seismic changes, which eventually erupt as breasts
like 45
and bodily
the
functions,
is a whole
along with volcanic surges of temper,
20 tons,
which until recently were also put down to hormones.
Yes, my question is,
Now experts believe the brain is to
how do we
blame.
keep finding these
We used to think the human brain was mature by 18 months.
It's because we
Not
keep
anymore.
digging, you know? And it's scratch
When scientists used magnetic
Everyone keeps
resonance
digging.
imaging to
So
scan the
this
brains
is,
of
as has
non-adolescents,
been a lot of
they
these
discovered
types of
multiplying
stories
connections
like
between the
this.
cells
This
of
is
the prefrontal
Argentina.
cortex.
Is grounds in which they're digging that these discoveries are being made.
That's the part of the brain that makes decisions
This
and
particular
controls
fossil was
emotion.
unearthed over 4 different seasons.
So what happens when we ask a
between
teenage
2005
and an
2009.
adult brain a straightforward question?
They've got about
The young brain's
45%
freshly grown connections
of
really
the
slow it down.
dinosaur's actual skeleton
We used to
represented in
think
the
that
fossil finds.
the human brain was essentially formed at the age of 2.
Which is,
And now we appreciate
a
that
good-
the brain is so pretty
a
plastic,
darn
up
good
into perhaps
percent.
even in the early 20s.
When you get to a
One of the
teenager,
neat
there's
things
certain
about
key
this is the
areas of
bones
the
are
brain
so
that
large,
have a
and
major
they're
enhanced
so
level
well
of
preserved.
activity.
They
One
even just show
really
there's
important
muscle
part of
scarring,
the
so
brain
they're
that makes
actually
us
being able
what
to
we
go
are
from
is this
scars
bit here, the
that are
prefrontal
left in the
cortex.
bone
That's the part of
from
the
the
brain that's
movement of the
involved with
muscles,
decision
tendons,
making.
and ligaments
And in particular,
over the bone
is decision making.
to be able to
It
actually
will
determine
oversee
the
functions, the processing of information. It's
Oh my
ability
God,
to-
so
its
much.
ability to stop us from doing
No, no, don't stop the government from harassing us.
Lots of things
Yeah, I guess
going
it
on.
looks like
No, no,
it's
definitely not.
Connections really slow it
makeup
down.
of 2 different
Slow it down.
Adolescent brains
I can't slow it down.
thankfully by adult
It's
brains,
progressing.
connections are pruning.
a flood.
Hormones are
Comment?
totally off the hook when it comes to teenage moods.
If the river had a quick flood and these creatures got immersed,
Hormones
got
produce
stuck in the
phenol
mud,
curves and
got
more
covered up,
muscles,
that's why.
but also an oily substance called sebum, which means 80% of teenage skin
Is it,
suffers
you know,
from.
if you think about it, it's gotta be tougher.
Blackheads,
Really, I thought about it before. It's gotta be tougher to get
And
this
if they're
big
really
stuff.
unlucky, bulgy nodules.
I think if it's not
At
blah,
the
blah, blah,
exact
but
moment they want to
little
look
things get
attractive,
covered up by mud a lot easier.
teenagers start to resemble pizza.
You know? I mean, if
And if they
only
do
just
manage
a
to
small
get a date,
portion
their
of this
brains are so
dinosaur
emotionally
is
inept, they're
above
almost bound to mess it up.
mud that would normally encase a T-Rex, right? If most of it remains exposed,
Compared to the bony plates of an armadillo, or the hard scales of a pangolin, or even the tough leathery skin of an Indian elephant, the thin layer of delicate epidermis that makes up our outermost covering may seem like pretty wimpy protection from the outside world. Except all we have to do is take a closer look at our silky smooth skin to see that there actually is a small patch of scaly armor. Those scales are made out of the same hard protein, called keratin, as the scales of pangolins and other animals. Of course, ours are a lot thinner, and therefore more fragile.
Ooh.
That's normally a problem, because we don't regularly need to survive this. Our scales also
What?
have to be super durable because our body produces a brand new layer of tens of millions of them every day. The giant never-ending task of producing this armor is carried out by an equally giant and never-ending army of skin cells in the underlying epidermis. Every second, some 500 new cells split off from stem cells at the base of the epidermis and join this army, gradually migrating to the surface of your skin as younger cells form beneath and push them upwards. The journey to the top is one of ultimate sacrifice. In order to form a protective barrier between you and the world, each cell is programmed to systematically destroy itself as it nears the skin's surface, using enzymes to dismantle its vital parts and essentially converting it into a hard, flat machine. In the process, it attaches itself to surrounding cells via whisker-like projections and releases packets of soft fat to fill the spaces between cells. The outermost layer of your skin consists of about 15 sheets of this scaly mesh, overall as thick as a piece of plastic. Your flexible body armor forms a waterproof and surprisingly effective barrier against penetration by bacteria, fungi, viruses, and other unfriendly interlopers, while the acidic nature of the fats prevents similar nasty microbes from setting up shop on your skin's surface. Of course, while our skin does a good job of protecting us from microscopic, it's our brain, not our skin, that does the job of a pangolin's scales, helping us avoid getting eaten by lions.
Yeah, your brain is just like, I'm not.
Men generally get bigger than women, generally speaking, right? And their brain takes longer to stop growing.
Yeah. Brain and body.
So that's interesting.
Our perception of the world around us is strongly linked to our vision, but how do you know what you're seeing is real? Can you really trust your eyes? Take for example these two gray rectangular columns, both of which are different shades of gray. Or are they? It turns out that they're the exact same, and yet, even after knowing the illusion is there, your eyes refuse to see them as the same. Introducing colors produces the same result. I promise, no trick photography or editing effects have been applied. In fact, if you look up the Munker white illusion, you'll come across many more examples. Examine them in Photoshop, and you can see that the colors are the exact same. A similar effect can be seen with this checkerboard illusion. Tile A clearly seems darker than tile B, but you know better by now, right? Even though your eyes can't see it, you know when I remove the surrounding imagery, the tiles will be the same color. So, what's going on here? The truth is that scientists don't fully understand this phenomenon, and there are many complex biological and neurological factors taking place. Ultimately, our brains judge color and brightness in context. In other words, our brains compare the surrounding environment in order to create our perception. The purpose of our senses, or eyes in this case, is not to provide us with an absolute color or physical property of our external reality, but to interpret what we see as efficiently as possible in order to interact with our environment most appropriately. The tile illusion takes advantage of this phenomenon. Our brains know that shadows make objects look darker. As a result, the brain compensates by interpreting the tile as being lighter than it appears, until we take the shadow away. Perhaps the most blatant example is this gradient. The middle bar is simply one color. Remove the background gradient and it becomes obvious. Once again, the darkness of the background has affected our perception of the bar's color. Our perception is relative. So, do you still trust your eyes? Got a burning question you want to answer? Ask it in the comments or on Facebook and Twitter. And subscribe for more weekly science videos.
Institute and the Department of Psychology have been looking at the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. They put people through these basically like trust games where it's like, okay, person,
last
you
year's
can have
championships, Nelson set a U.S. record by recalling 303 digits in order. That's like memorizing 43 phone numbers in just 5 minutes. How did he do it? By mastering a centuries-old memorization technique known as PAO.
And to be able to figure out that this dorsolateral
person action object is a system where
they had people
numbers that represent
within
person
the
action
study
or
where
object
they
and
damaged
combine them into
and they found that those
one
people
mental picture.
Our brains are wired to recall visual images, not numbers. So by converting a string of digits to a vivid mental picture, it makes it easier for our brain to remember that.
So I have a mental dictionary of 1,000 people, and from 000 to 999, I've given each of those persons one of those digits. I have an action associated with those guys, as well as an object. For example, 34 is Shaquille O'Neal. His action is dunking, and his object is a backboard.
This system allows Nelson to convert strings of digits into easily memorable images.
And then brain
into a person, the next two into an action, and the last two an object.
Okay, go.
For example, 48, 66, 31. 48 is my dog. Then I look at the next two digits, 66.
My brain
which
is
the person
using my
seeing,
mouth
but his
to
action
communicate
is setting
something.
fire to something. And then the last two digits, 31, which is a redneck hillbilly guy playing the banjo. His object is a banjo.
And your brain
So that
is using
so I have 4866.
the future is now. Your
It's
brain
a
is
dog
using
setting
visual
fire
and
to a
auditory
banjo, one memorable image.
to understand
It
what
took
my brain is
Nelson
trying to
months
tell you.
to come up with his personal set of 3,000
The
people,
fascinating
actions,
thing
and
here
objects.
is
This
that
dedication to training could be the
researchers
key to capturing another memory title.
use the internet and electrodes to be able to take the signal from one brain of a person saying, hola, ciao.
Exobionics in Berkeley, California, has already engineered
Exactly.
a full body.
So the person in their head was going, hola, ciao, and they recorded the activity from the brain and they
major injuries such as
it always makes that sound
to
when
help
it
them
goes into a
stand
computer.
and
They
walk.
put it into a computer, and then they transmitted the signal, the digital signal, to which
reduce the degree of fatigue.
they changed it to binary, actually. They took the code, changed it to binary, sent it over the internet 5,000 miles. And then the receiving individuals had a little cap on, little electrodes on. And they didn't actually hear the word hola in their head. What they got was a series of light flashes in their eyes called phosphones.
It feels powerful.
Stimulation of a particular area of the head creates visual light, perceived light in the brain from the eyes. And so that's what we saw. It was basically like Morse code.
The device simply advances the leg
Morse
forward.
code, and then they had to
And he's got to
translate
do everything else.
into
The
order.
stride length changes
Or
based
check.
on how much he
So this
leans.
is the part of the study that
past his center spot, it takes a longer step. So he has a little control over how long the stride
what were
is.
they translating?
It's truly the
What
first
was the
step in
code
creating
breaker?
exoskeletons as wearable as a watch.
Right, they were given a code
Will be as
breaker
easy as writing a
for the light flashes.
Right.
I
But
think
were
that exoskeletons will go
were the
beyond
light
just
flashes
those individuals who
simply
have
the result
disabilities.
of the other brain's
When
activity?
the typewriter was first
Or was
invented,
it-
I mean, it was primarily used for veterans of the First World
This is
War.
what
who
this
no
is like.
longer write
I mean, it is. I
and
guess
so
it
they could
is.
type.
I guess
But
that's
as
why this story
otherwise
is
healthy people
It
saw
is the
how
result
fast
simply
they
that
could
flashing
type.
and then
He said,
decoded
"I want
what
that
somebody would have been
technology,"
thinking,
and I suspect
what
the exact
Ola
same
looks
thing is
like
going to happen
in
with
output.
exoskeletons.
I think it would be much more interesting if they were actually like seeing a letter in their mind's eye.
Right.
The light flashes.
When someone dies,
It is a way to
their body goes through many
communicate.
stages
It
of
seems like we're going
decomposition.
backwards in
The fresh stage begins
I
immediately
guess
after the
the
heart stops beating.
fine-tuned
The skin turns
aspect
purple,
of the communication.
and the
You have
muscles
cell
begin to
phones.
stiffen.
If this
in a
was
process
if this was
called
50
rigor
years
mortis.
ago, 60 years ago, this was 80 years ago.
In the bloat stage,
This would be
gases build up in the
extremely
body,
amazing.
causing the abdomen to
And
expand.
it is in how they're
As
doing
the
it.
pressure increases,
But
bodily fluids and
I'm not
gases
getting
push
it.
out of any orifice.
I'm with you there, Justin.
In the
Actually,
active
I'm
decay
not.
stage,
This study, I was like,
maggots feed
yeah,
on the
I
flesh,
saw
and the
brain-to-brain
largest amount of
communication,
body
and
mass is lost.
everybody's jumping all over it, all over the
Finally,
place,
in
and
the
I'm just like,
advanced stage, the body will
but
continue to break down until
call
only
me
dry
when it's more
remains are left.
exciting.
While the stages of
Again,
decomposition
What do we
Silence.
wear a hat and hear each
the
other's
speed
thoughts?
depends on many factors.
And then go back better than.
And
I
cost
feel
of
like
death.
that's going to be. I feel like I won't be able to
cause
talk
the
to
body
anybody.
to
I feel like there'll be a
break
lot
down
of
or
feedback.
like cold weather.
I feel like there'll be even more like
idea.
sub-referencing, sub-tangenting.
Or
Joke
you
that
just
start
put
with and don't tell and try to tell a different one instead.
Cricket.
Like, what would be amazing is if you could. I mean, in one of the quotes from this article I've got here is saying, "We believe these experiments represent an important first step in exploring the feasibility of complementing or bypassing traditional language-based or motor-based communication." So imagine you're connected to somebody else. You know, long distance boyfriend or girlfriend. You're thousands of miles away from each other because you're in college on other sides of the country, and you want to have your girlfriend experience the dream that you had last night as you were, but without telling her about it. So you both have these little apps. You're plugged into your computers over the internet, and You can dream, you can imagine, think that the images that you saw in the story without the confusion of words that sometimes don't really correctly get at everything that happens in a metaphorical story. And so your girlfriend is on the other end getting those images and just seeing the images that you're studying in your own eyes. That to me, that's repulsive.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, yeah, how often do you have to tell your significant other 100% correct? Not often. Oh yeah, there's the other person there. But I think, you know, for people who, it would be trouble, but for people with sensory disabilities or, you know, people who have been blind for years, maybe you can, you know, send visual images to them of movies that you're watching. Very psychoactive. Maybe you can send them images of, you know, your trip to Paris or, you know, whatever it is. Give somebody a different experience. The experience of your visual mind.
There's an entirely new thing about that. Because, like, you got the little person down at the bottom of the screen who's really good at doing in-time, real-time sign language. You get a fantastic visual out of it. Somebody who has processes, you know, has a good eye for detail.
I do this for you.
Watching, noticing a lot of things about it. Noticing a very detailed
right now.
person that you want to have wearing the top that's filming it out so everybody's not blind or in the cone. And because you have to have, you couldn't just computer generate it. You would need an intermediary. You need an observer who's processing it and translating it from the visual world into brain cells. Although, small leap then to, you know, Pixar movies being able to be directly downloaded into the brain.
Right?
And then you could also be monitored. Send messages, see if they respond, see what's going on. There's all sorts of things.
All sorts of yeah. So it's a proof of concept in the most basic sense. It's, you know, the very basic things they have done. Not so exciting, not so interesting, whatever. But as you can see from our conversation, where it could go eventually is the really, you know, the imagination of this technology.
But I'm still trying to figure out, was there a code maker in the middle of this? Like, you know, was it... Yeah. Like, how... Maybe Morse code. One only had a whole lot. How did they think the other translate it into? There's...
Guess that's all for now.
Yeah.